Socceroos head coach Graham Arnold has just announced his squad for the upcoming March qualifiers against Lebanon. Of course, the World Cup qualifiers continuing for the Socceroos with 2 games at home, one in Sydney and in Canberra in the coming weeks. And this is the squad that we're looking at. Some interesting inclusions, some players missing due to injury and suspension. Let's dive into it. And of course, we'd love to get your thoughts on the squad as well, so feel free to join our conversation in the comments section. First of all, the goalkeepers, we've got one change there from the Asian Cup squad. No Lawrence Thomas, who is obviously has been in and out of the Wanderers squad with injury, but of course it's Ryan Gauci and Glover. Obviously you've got both Gauci and Glover who are playing football at their respective clubs over there in England, with Gauci at Aston Villa and Glover at Middlesbrough. Right back, again, Graham Arnold sticking with the 3 right backs in Lewis Miller, Natty Atkinson and Gethin Jones, which is quite interesting, especially considering Aziz Bayic for this camp, so it's just Geordie Boss as the lone left back. Again, you've got Kai Rolls who can slot into that position. We did see last year Graham Arnold experimenting with Kai Rolls, playing him in a left back role. But obviously you've got Burgess, Sutar and Deng still in the squad for the upcoming matches. In midfield is where we've got some interesting changes. So it's Bacchus and Yazbek. You'd expect to be those 2 main defensive midfielders. It's Aidan O'Neill, who's missing from suspension, obviously due to receiving that red card against South Korea in the Asian Cup. Connor Metcalf and Riley McGree, of course, Jackson Irvine, and it's Aiden Hrustic, who returns to the Socceroos side for the first time in almost a year. It was the friendly, I believe, last year against Argentina in China, where was the last time he featured for the Socceroos. And obviously he's been, hasn't been playing too much football of late, finally now getting some game time at club level, which is great to see. He's a player that I think a lot of people really, really like, and he brings a lot of good qualities to the Socceroos squad, and I'm curious to see how Arnold utilises him. That midfield has looked pretty set with, Irvine, and whether it's Metcalf or McGree, and, Bacchus, or, previously it's been O'Neill sort of playing that holding midfield role. Where does Aiden Hrustic fit into that system? In the past we've seen him play as sort of an out-and-out number 10. The Socceroos not necessarily playing that sort of system now. It's a fascinating dynamic in that midfield area. And of course there's so much to talk about in the top end of the pitch as well. An interesting one for me, Brandon Borrello, returning to the Socceroos for the first time since the end of last year. He was involved in the qualifiers back in November. A fascinating one because he hasn't been in amazing form. Obviously, we know Brandon Borrello is a fantastic player and provides a bit of versatility whether he does play through the middle or out wide. As you can see from the squad graphic, this is what we'd expect from these players. You'd imagine that Brandon Borrello is going to be deployed out on that right wing, considering that there's not many players who can play that role. You've got obviously Goodwin and Silvera. Sammy Silvera could easily play on the right wing as well as maybe whether you want to shift one of those strikers out there as well. And there's so much to dive into in the centre forward position. Duke, Fornaroli, Adam Taggart is back in the Socceroos squad. Yengi and John Iredale as well, keeping their places in the Socceroos squad for these upcoming qualifiers. Obviously, Adam Taggart is the exciting one, and it's the exciting one for Perth Glory fans and A-League fans, and it's a feel-good story, Adam Taggart is a guy who was playing over in Japan, and he's returned to the A-League and is in fantastic form. 14 goals in 18 games. He's wearing the captain's armband. He's a guy with immense experience, and look, again, it's a similar situation where to Hrustic, where where does Taggart fit back into the Socceroos squad? In the past, we've seen him start games. You get to expect that it'll probably be Duke to start once again for the Socceroos, but you never know. Taggart has been in good form. Graham Arnold did say in his recent press conference announcing the squad that he was over in Perth for their recent fixture in the A-League against Jets, where he saw Taggart play in person. And that's sort of a nice segue into Stamatolopoulos, who is also playing in that match. Apostolos Stamatolopoulos at Newcastle Jets, who again has been in fantastic form in the A-League as well. Probably close to missed out in the squad. He was questioned. Graham Arnold was questioned about Apostolos in this press conference, and he mentioned that he's a player who could potentially feature for the Socceroos in the future. But look, it's certainly an interesting one. You look at those 5 strikers there, 5. for this squad. And I mean, it looks kind of sort of concerning looking at sort of the spread of the squad. And, we don't see much cover at left back or right wing. But as I mentioned, we could see, obviously we know Cassini Yengi can be deployed in a wide position. You've got options there. We've seen Graham Arnold does like to push Jordy Boss up into a wide position as well. I mean, whether you could even play Natty Atkinson further up the pitch in a right wing position as well. So again, obviously these players aren't locked into these roles, but this is sort of a general idea at what we're looking at. Look, it's a good squad overall. Obviously, we're missing some players to injuries, the likes of Callum Neuenhoff, obviously Martin Boyle, and I'm sure if injuries weren't a concern, I'm sure the squad would look a little bit different. And as well, I mean, as a Mariners fan, you get a touch on Josh Nisbet. And not just Mariners fans, but I feel like plenty of A-League fans have been calling out for the inclusion of Josh Nisbet, because he has been, I mean, you got to say, surely having his best season now. This guy is at the top of his game. And you just got to imagine that he's surely attracting interest from clubs overseas now with the way he's playing, leading the assist stats in the A-League men's competition at the moment. Look, to be fair, you look at that midfield and where does Josh Nisbet fit into that? It's, you've got some really high-quality players in there, but I'm sure Josh Nisbet is not too far off getting his first Socceroos call-up, man. He's been playing fantastic football, and look, if he does secure that move overseas, if it does happen, I'm sure he'll certainly be on the radar for Graham Arnold in the future. A good squad. Let's have a look now at how it could potentially line up, and this is what I've gone for. If you guys have a different starting 11, feel free to throw that in the comments. Again, I'm open to changes. But this is, I think, what we'll expect. Obviously, Matty Ryan in goals. I've gone for a back four of Natty Atkinson, Harry Suter, Cam Burgess, and Jordy Boss. Midfield three, Bacchus is that holding midfielder. A lot of importance, I think, on Bacchus now with the absence of Aidan O'Neill. He's going to be that key pillar in that defensive midfield role. I'd still go for Metcalf and Irvine in those midfield positions. But it's great knowing that we've got great depth off the bench, Andrew Stitch and McGree, who could easily, start in those roles as well. So that's what we want. We want these headaches for Coach Graham Arnold. It's his job to figure out, what's going to be the best and most cohesive starting 11 for these games. Again, Brandon Borrello, you'd expect to start out wide back in November. I'm pretty sure he did start on that right wing position. Craig Goodwin, one of the Socceroos' best players at the moment, has to be starting on that left wing. And I'd still go for Mitch Duke through the middle. But again, it's so many options off the bench, whether it is Taggart, Fornaroli, Yengi, Iredale as well, potentially to come on and, try something different if it's not quite working out. Graham Arnold, again, made the point in his press conference saying that, although the teams that we're coming up against at the moment in these qualifiers, defend with, a deep block and can be really tricky to break down. It's going to be, even though, whether it's Duke or it could be someone else, it's going to be important to have those different options available to us, in order to break down those stubborn defenses. So look, an exciting squad, a squad with a good balance of experience and youth, which is what we're seeing. Graham Arnold's made it clear that he does want to integrate some young players in here as well. Obviously, we know there's a bunch of young players featuring for the Olyroos at this time as well, and that squad has already been announced and is looking very stacked. Plenty of A-League players in that squad as well, who I'm sure are not too far off a spot in the Socceroos. So again, let me know your thoughts on this squad in the chat, in the comments section. Plenty of experience and quality, and I'm sure there's enough here for the Socceroos to get the job done against Lebanon in the two upcoming fixtures. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. My name's Lockie. This is Coast to Watch Football, and I'll see you in the next one.